There are some actors everybody knows, even if you don't remember their name, even if you've never watched a single movie they were in. The moment you see their face, something clicks. You just know you've seen that guy before. That's exactly how it is with Jim Carrey. Before anyone started wondering what he really had to say outside of his movie roles, and before he opened his mouth in one of those weird interviews, he was first and foremost a comedian, a guy who was supposed to make us laugh. Throughout most of the 90s and early 2000s, Jim Carrey was the walking definition of absurdity, the face that could stretch into anything, the king of wild expressions and over-the-top energy. If someone said comedy, the first thing that popped into your head was probably Ace Ventura talking through his butt, or The Mask doing things no human being should be physically capable of, and that's exactly why audiences loved him. The problem was, people stopped seeing the person behind the rubber face. The moment he showed up on screen, everyone expected a joke. Even when he was completely silent, people stared, waiting for him to say something funny. In Hollywood, they had only one kind of role for him. Even if Carrey wanted to try something different, it wasn't that easy. He was too closely associated with the characters he used to play. Then, at some point, he landed a role that was nothing like anything he'd done before. And while it technically wasn't his first serious role, this one turned out to be a major turning point. The Truman Show is now considered a classic, a film often analyzed through the lens of simulation theory, social manipulation, and manufactured reality. But when it first came out, it was something fresh and unexpected. And for Carrey himself, it was more than just another acting job. He played Truman, an ordinary guy slowly realizing that his entire life is actually a reality TV show, controlled from behind the scenes. And strangely enough, something about that character hit home for Jim. Just like Truman, he started to ask himself, what if everything around me is fake? What if I'm not even real? It started with small reflections, questions about who he really was without the comedy mask, but eventually that simple thought evolved into a much deeper, more public exploration of the meaning of existence.
I think I wasn't necessarily seen as much or as intently as I wanted to be when I was a kid. I had a job, at least in my own mind, and that was to make my mother feel better. I felt the need to make them feel that they did something special just by the very fact that they brought me into the world. Yeah. So from a very young age, I wanted to convince them that I was a miracle. And then I wanted to convince the world that I was a miracle. and now I want to convince the world that I'm just like them.
It was more than just a midlife crisis. Carrey entered a phase in life where fame, money, red carpets, and movie deals stopped being enough. Something inside him started to rebel. He began to see himself as a character in someone else's script, and instead of playing another role, he wanted to figure out who he actually was.
You know, there's a character that's been playing me my whole life, and in fact, there is no me.
That was when his personal life started to change too. The guy who once lit up every party and flashed a smile for every camera started pulling back. People began to see him as more quiet, withdrawn, almost distant from the Hollywood circus.
I was sickened. I was sickened by the standing ovation. I felt like Hollywood is just spineless, en masse.
His friends said something in him had broken, but Carrey himself called it an awakening. In interviews, he began talking about things that confused a lot of people. He said personality is an illusion, that who we think we are is just a bunch of stories we tell ourselves. He claimed that Jim Carrey wasn't even a real person, just a character he had invented for show business. The media immediately started looking for a scandal. The internet lit up with theories, and Carrey, he just smiled. Interestingly, a lot of people began to see something deeper in his words. Instead of seeing a celebrity on the edge of a breakdown, they saw a man who had finally looked truth in the eye. Jim Carrey had realized that fame and success were just a mask, and that real life only begins when you stop believing in all of it. After the success of The Truman Show, Jim Carrey felt like a door had opened to another dimension. His mind filled with questions far from the typical Hollywood lifestyle. The same guy who had been jumping around as Ace Ventura in over-the-top comedies was now sitting on a late-night talk show couch saying things like, "I don't exist," and "everything is an illusion." He started diving into spiritual books like The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, which teach that the person you think you are is just a thought. The real you is the one watching it all from the background.
I understood suddenly how thought was just an illusory thing, and how thought is responsible for, if not all, most of the suffering we experience. And then I suddenly felt like I was looking at these thoughts from another perspective, and I wondered, who is it that's aware that I'm thinking?
Carrey began speaking publicly about how Jim Carrey was just a mask, a role society created.
I don't exist, so they're all characters that I've played, including Jim Carrey, including Joel Barish, including any of those things. They're all characters. You know, Jim Carrey was a less intentional character because I thought I was just building something that people would like, but it was a character. I played the guy that was free from concern so that people who watched me would be free from concern.
Journalists looked at him like he was losing it, but he spoke with calm conviction, as if he'd uncovered a deep, universal truth. Even when his words seemed out there was a strange consistency. The guy who'd played the crazy one for laughs was now saying things that felt disturbingly real. Theories spread online, some wild, some compelling, trying to explain what was happening. When someone that famous suddenly says everything's fake, the ego is a concept, and there is no real self, it makes you wonder if he's onto something. Many stopped seeing Carrey as just an actor and started viewing him as someone who'd broken out of something bigger than entertainment. Like he'd pierced the veil and was trying to show us what was on the other side, even if most brushed him off as crazy. In 2014, Carrey appeared on Jimmy Kimmel and intensified things. On live TV, he flashed Illuminati hand signs and called out the media for manipulation.
Is that a gang sign? Have you,
Oh, like you don't know what it is. Yeah.
What is it?
Come on, Jimmy. Seriously, the time is up. I'm sick and tired of the secrets and the lies. It is the secret symbol of the Illuminati. For years now, talk show hosts, people on television, people in sitcoms have been hired by the government to throw you off the track, to distract you, to make you laugh and stuff like that, make you happy and docile so you don't know what's really going on. Oh, hold on a second. Yeah, listen, I'm in the middle of blowing the lid off some...
What happened?
I'm sorry, Jimmy. I think what I was really trying to say was I think people really enjoyed Dumb and Dumber this weekend.
Reactions varied. Some thought it was a joke, others a stunt, but some wondered if he was tapping into something deeper. At the core, he felt show business was a giant illusion machine that not only deceives audiences, but erases the identities of those working in it. For Carrey, fame became a prison. He had spent years building Jim Carrey only to realize the persona wasn't real. Talking about the illusion of ego in our roles unsettled the media because the truth he shared was uncomfortable.
Depression only happens when you don't accept what is and when you're playing a character, in life. So when I tried to go back and play Jim Carrey, I got depressed.
Is it a coincidence that as Carrey started speaking publicly like this, his career slowed? He stopped being a blockbuster go-to and his Hollywood presence faded. His relationships suffered, and the biggest blow came in 2015, when his ex-girlfriend, Catriona White, died by suicide. She left a note, and her family publicly accused Carrey of playing a role in her death. The media didn't hold back. Allegations, lawsuits, commentary flooded in. What had been part of his private spiritual journey turned into a media storm. For a man trying to let go of ego, it was a brutal reminder that the world still saw him as Jim Carrey, the celebrity, and celebrities don't disappear easily. During this time, Carrey retreated from public life. He avoided red carpets, gave fewer interviews, and took fewer roles. Instead, he found a new passion, painting. He began creating large, emotional, colorful works, many with political messages. In 2017, a short documentary about his art showed a completely different side of him. Not the superstar, not the funny guy, but a man locked away in a studio, trying to paint out what was inside his head. To say that Jim Carrey went through a spiritual awakening doesn't quite capture it. His words started going way beyond anything Hollywood was used to hearing. At some point, he stopped just questioning the system. He started openly mocking it. The entire celebrity machine, the way it turns people into products. He was done pretending it made any sense. One of the most talked about moments, which later went viral, happened at a Harper's Bazaar party. Carrey showed up, looked straight into the camera, and basically unloaded his entire philosophy.
I wanted to find the most meaningless thing that I could come to and join, and here I am.
They're
I
celebrating.
mean, you got to admit it's completely meaningless.
Well, they say they're celebrating icons inside.
Celebrating
Do you believe
icons,
in
boy,
icons?
that is just the absolute lowest aiming possibility that we could come up with. What do you believe in icons? I don't believe in personalities. I don't believe that you exist. Yeah, no, I don't believe in icons. I don't believe in personalities. I believe that peace lies beyond personality.
You look good.
No, I didn't
that an
get dressed
accident?
up. I didn't get dressed up.
Who did?
There is no me.
There's no you.
No.
We're not here. This is a dream.
There's just things happening. It's not our world.
None
That's
of this
the
is
key.
real?
Nope.
So
Nope.
you're just passing
We don't
through.
matter. We don't matter.
Oh, wow.
There's the good news.
He told the world that none of it matters, that identity is meaningless, that we're nothing, that everything, all of this, is just an illusion. It felt like he had hit a wall, and instead of trying to climb over it, he just turned around and walked away, like he made a conscious choice to step out of the life he now saw as hollow. But don't get it twisted, Carrey never completely walked away from acting. Over the years, he still showed up in a few roles, and in 2018, he starred in a series called Kidding, where he played a beloved children's TV host going through a deep personal crisis. It was a perfect fit for the new Jim Carrey, a show filled with sadness, introspection, and big questions about life's meaning. It wasn't just a role, it mirrored exactly what Carrey himself had been exploring for years. For some viewers, it felt like a bridge, a way for him to reconcile two sides of himself, the old Carrey who made people laugh, and the new Carrey who asked whether any of this was even real. In interviews, though, he made it clear, acting didn't thrill him the way it used to. He called it a kind of playtime, something he could dip into now and then, but not something he needed anymore.
I act because I'm broken in a lot of pieces, and acting gives me a chance to reconfigure those pieces into 1,000 different things that are positive for people to watch.
When we look at Jim Carrey today, we don't see the same face we remember from the old comedies. That exaggerated grin, his trademark, is gone. Now he seems quieter, more focused, maybe even free. He's no longer on talk shows or red carpets, and he's clearly stopped trying to be who others want him to be.
Are you gonna make the Grinch?
People what they
It makes
want.
me so angry. I must find a way to stop sequels from coming.
And maybe that's why, right now, he feels more authentic than anyone else in Hollywood. Somehow, Carrey has become a kind of guide for people. You'll find tons of motivational clips on YouTube using his words. The guy we used to associate with loud, silly comedies suddenly became a kind of modern philosopher. One of his most powerful speeches was at Maharishi University.
When I was about 28, after a decade as a professional comedian, I realized one night in LA that the purpose of my life had always been to free people from concern, just like my dad. And when I realized this, I dubbed my new devotion the Church of Freedom from Concern. And I dedicated myself to that ministry. What's yours? How will you serve the world? What do they need that your talent can provide? That's all you have to figure out. As someone who's done what you're about to go and do, I can tell you from experience, the effect you have on others is the most valuable currency there is.
It wasn't just a speech. It was more like a wake-up call. He still acts occasionally, but it's not the same. In Sonic the Hedgehog, he played the over-the-top villain, Dr. Robotnik. At first glance, it seemed like a throwback. But something was different. It felt like he was mocking his old self. The guy chasing laughs, stuck in the performance. The guy who hadn't yet realized that you don't need to entertain to be real. But Jim Carrey figured that out long ago. That's why, as he said himself, he doesn't plan to return to acting. At least not in the way we knew him.
Well, I'm retiring, but yeah, probably. I feel like, and this is something you might never hear another celebrity say as long as time exists. I have enough. I've done enough. I am enough.
In a way, Carrey did what most celebrities never do. He stepped away from the illusion, the one he'd helped create. That doesn't mean we all need to quit our jobs and go meditate in the mountains, but maybe it's worth asking, how much of our lives is really us, and how much is just a role we're playing? Because if he's right, if everything is an illusion, what does that mean for actors, artists, and celebrities still performing? What about the audience still buying tickets to the show? And maybe, just maybe, we're all living in our own version of The Truman Show, a world that only seems real. Maybe Jim Carrey didn't go crazy. Maybe he just woke up. Maybe the Wachowskis were onto something with The Matrix, but maybe The Matrix isn't a digital simulation. Maybe it's real life. The pretending, the pressure, the roles we play. And maybe escaping it doesn't mean fighting machines. Maybe it just means stop pretending to be someone you never were.